Today on Alabama Unfiltered, we talked to Christine Carr about the medical marijuana bill that passed last session and what this means for your community. Coming up, these pot shops are coming all over Alabama, what this bill has specifically in it and that you need to be aware of. And also, we're going to talk about how Governor Ivey and the legislature kind of sold us out on this one. So stick around.
Welcome into this week's edition of Alabama Unfiltered. I am one of your hosts for the program. By the way, make sure you find us at all the different places you can find podcasts. Tell your friends about it. Give us a good rating, thumbs up, 5 stars, all of those kinds of things. Amy Beth Shaver is also with me, and Allison Sinclair is here as well. So, ladies, what's going on this week?
You never said your name.
Did I not do that the second time either? Okay.
Scott Beeson.
But you know what? Do you need an introduction?
Let's just keep going.
It's fine.
Well, I messed it up already.
No,
now.
you didn't.
You sure? You're okay with that?
Absolutely.
I say it every day.
We're
You didn't
unfiltered,
say
I know who
Scott.
I am.
We're wrong.
Well, good, but
we mess
welcome,
up, we move
welcome
on.
to the show. So, what are we doing today?
Today, I'm super excited. We're talking to Christine Carr, who is a mom on a mission. She's after a woman after my own heart and God's heart.
So she's an activist.
She just found herself in an unlikely position and has made some waves down in Montgomery, and we're happy to have her on. Christine, are you with us?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
Let's start. Kind of tell us how you found yourself in the middle of the medical marijuana debate of Alabama. It's not where you normally find
No.
a mom, and
True.
really not anything that was ever on your radar, was it?
Not on my radar, not anything I ever expected that I would get so heavily involved in. You know, by profession, I'm a nurse anesthetist. I've been taking care of patients for 27 years, mother of 4. Always been involved or interested in policy, politics, those types of things. I mean, I consciously became a Republican when I was 9 years old. So I'm sure that's common among 4th graders, but those were the Reagan years. So there you
I
go.
was about to
yeah.
say that must have been during Reagan. Absolutely.
Those were the good years.
I wrote my first letter to the president when I was 10. So that, it's just
true.
always been kind of a part of who I am and, that I care about. And this time last year, our family was living in New Orleans. One of my sons had some concussions, some injuries, and we were getting specialized treatment. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on in the state. I mean, my goodness, for healthcare people, we have all just come out of a really tough COVID year. And we were all reeling, of course, from everything with the national stage. Remember this time last year and
all
everything
very
going
fuzzy.
on nationally?
Right. I've
Yes.
just blanked it out
Yeah,
of my memory.
I know we
but
kind
yes.
of want to forget some of it. So when I came home, I was on cloud 9. I wanted to talk to people about this great treatment that my son had. Would love to start clinics here, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why, just through serendipity, a conversation introduced me to the fact that, wow, the best medical investment was going to be medical marijuana. And it had easily passed through the Senate, and my jaw just about hit the floor. I remember hearing about the last attempts to get medical marijuana passed in Alabama around 2019. And I was very happy that, we all had enough common sense to see how things had gone wrong in other states. And it was always handily defeated. Because of my profession and my specialty in anesthesia, pain management, trauma, biochemistry, cellular mechanisms, I knew enough to know that it was at best questionable, but not the great promised, thing that people were trying to make it out to be. So I was concerned, I prayed, got in touch with some conservative friends of mine, some representatives, some people running for positions. And they said, yes, Christine, we're really concerned. Got in touch with other conservative activists, some wonderful physicians who are not politically aligned in any way. And before you knew it, I was at the House Health Committee hearing on April 14th of last year. And that's when I saw before me that the fix was in. And it was a really, really sad sight to see.
Christine, before we go any further, before we get into what happened in Montgomery and the experiences you had, your expertise is healthcare. You have friends and people who work in healthcare, and you were alluding to that medical marijuana is not the panacea that everyone thinks it. I know people personally, friends of mine, that when I'm on my radio program and I say something about, hey, this stuff is bad for you, I don't know why everybody thinks it's great. he literally gets upset with me because he is convinced this is like the miracle drug, that it will do everything. I laugh and say, you're still going to be bald, the whole 9 yards, whatever. But why do you think it is there's this disconnect between the realities of what it is, and so many people think, if I just could get this, it's kept away from me, and if I could get it, my problems will be solved. Why do you have any idea why that is? Why do so many people believe in it so wholeheartedly? And that's why they get upset, and why they can't really debate the issue, because they are literally emotionally tied to this substance.
Right.
Absolutely.
Here's a few, background to that. One, you have to give the marijuana industry enormous credit for their marketing strategies. They're awesome at it. There are modus operandi usually in every state. They're going to find a handful of people who are suffering, and their stories are important. I care about their stories. And so they're going to pitch something that is somewhat, quasi shady science. Some of it is valid. And most legislators, when it comes to understanding scientific principles, I would have to say,
I was down there, and I'm going to go, it's not just scientific principles. It might just be just normal elementary principles.
Yeah. So then, all you have to do is just, find that one person, and they had Senator Melson as their champion, who is a retired physician. And I do not, give him much credit as being the most honest person on dealing with this subject. I've been very disappointed and saddened by his behavior. We could go into that a little bit more, but I still have hope for him, maybe. And so people were sold a bill of goods based on emotion, tugging of the heartstrings. They've got a doctor that's pushing it, yet they don't want to listen to the other doctors that are trying to give the warnings. So then there's enough manipulation, there's enough bullying. That's another tactic. Our law enforcement was treated horribly. But people that want to believe, okay, so they have the desire to believe that this is the panacea, this is the end-all be-all, wonderful natural herbal thing that you could have. There's the marketing side of marijuana industry, but there's a lot of hurt in people today. There's a lot of mistrust towards traditional medicine. There's a lot of distrust towards the FDA. We've had some problems.
Right.
And I don't blame, I'm a big time, Amy Beth knows this. I'm a big time, use nutrition to heal thy body. Natural things. I've written on it and spoken about it for years. I'm very, very supportive of that. And a lot of people want that, and I don't blame them.
Right.
I use essential oils at my house. There's all kinds of natural things. So people want options, and they're hurt, and they don't trust. And so they want to hear that maybe there's something else for them, and they're ready to believe that. And when you have a situation where the science is confusing and people do blog posts and call them studies, and the average person doesn't know the difference, the average legislator doesn't know the difference, then they go to the default to the experts. And then it becomes difficult to know who's the experts you can trust. So there's a mixture of confusion. There's a mixture, I think, of hurt, a sense of lack of trust, and all those things start to come together. And that's how we've kind of found ourselves where we are.
So do you think that this bill, because I've said from the beginning that when you read these bills, and I hope most people do, it sounds so boring, but it's so important.
It really is.
Because the devil is in the details, literally. And I have several people in local Alabama, the group that I started, that are pro-medical marijuana. And I tell them, even if you're pro-medical marijuana, read this bill. It is a good old boy, terrible. It's just a bad bill.
Right.
So do you think that the legislature, do you think the passage of this was motivated out of maybe lack of knowledge, but also there's the compassion part that always comes up? Well, if you're compassionate, this is a compassion drug.
Yeah. Was it compassion with them not knowing, or was it, hey, let's enrich certain people and we really don't care what happened to it? Because I can see being bamboozled with the compassion thing. Because when I was down there, no matter what the issue was, they would find the cute kid, 5-year-old great kid, and your heart is breaking for them. And if this just might possibly help them, wouldn't you want to do it? And it's hard to, because yes. So Was it more corruption or compassion?
Or both? I guess that's an option.
It's a combination of both. I want to still say that most people had very good intentions and they meant well. When we get onto the topic of compassion, that's something I get passionate about because I take great offense at those that accuse others of not being compassionate just because they don't like the idea of the marijuana industry coming into our state.
Right.
I do medical advisory for Drug Free Alabama and for other drug prevention groups. I work with a lot of great Christian conservative groups and other community groups. And those people are all compassionate people. And we don't have a problem with medical marijuana per se. We have a big issue with the marijuana industry and what they represent. Because we actually have true medical cannabis right now. Let me tell you the difference. We have medical cannabis that are FDA approved drugs, such as Epidiolex, which is a pure CBD. We have Marinol, which is a THC derivative, Sesamet, which is a THC derivative, and we have also coming on the market things called nabiximols, which are a CBD THC mix, hopefully to help people with some chronic pain issues and neuropathic pain. Those are medications that you can get from a physician prescription and you can pick up in a pharmacy.
Now, are they horribly expensive? Because that'll be one of the arguments.
Well, they're covered by insurance.
Okay.
They're covered by insurance. You can pick them up from a pharmacy. And they have bad side effects too. Listen, just because a drug is FDA approved does not mean it's not potentially harmful. Here I am in anesthesia and I deal with fentanyl, okay? But I know what I'm doing when I deal with fentanyl. So when you have these FDA drugs that can have side effects, we have the procedures and the protocols for that. What we're dealing with here is the marijuana industry, and they're taking whole plant marijuana. It is essentially pot, and it's just processed. And now they say they can't ever claim it to be pharmaceutical grade because pharmaceutical grade means FDA approved. They'll call it therapeutic grade, and they'll say it's the purest stuff you can get. It's the best stuff you can get. Traditionally, in other states, they fail every time. But I don't know. Maybe Alabama will be different. But it is truly all the chemicals of the marijuana plant, all the hundreds and hundreds of chemicals. And we only know the tip of the iceberg of their interactions with the human body, their drug interactions. And here you have a certified cannabis doctor who could be like a retired ophthalmologist or something, advising someone with PTSD. They have no training in that on how much marijuana they should take. They can't get a prescription for it because, at least right now, it is still federally illegal, Schedule I drug. Doctors can't prescribe whole plant marijuana. They give them a recommendation. Then that patient takes the recommendation to the Cannabis Commission to get their cannabis card. Then they will go to a dispensary, which is not a pharmacy. There will never be a pharmacist there. There are not trained pharmacy techs there. This could be someone that was working at Starbucks last week or delivering your pizza, often giving you medical advice, and that's where you buy the marijuana. It is the same substance that you would buy in a shop where full recreational legal marijuana would be. The only difference in states that have both recreational and medical programs is the tax. People in full recreational states still love to have their medical marijuana card because they can buy it at a lower tax rate. It's the same substance. And that is what's coming to Alabama, the industry. And that's what we don't like. It is poorly regulated. It causes more harms. More youth will be using drugs. And right now, even in this bill that we couldn't, this simple pro-life bill, we couldn't get passed through the legislature, thanks to Kay Ivey, to protect the unborn from being exposed from this marijuana. So when people want to talk about compassion, and I say, I care about your story, I care about your child's epilepsy, and I want to help that. But I need you to also care about the parents that have buried their children because they committed suicide from taking medical marijuana. I need you to care about the parents that have buried their children because they were killed in a car accident. I need you to care and show compassion for those that are hurt just as much as I have compassion for your needs.
So this bill is all encompassing. There's several components to it. Walk us through kind of the main points of age requirements. You were talking about the pot shop workers that have I think you said a 4-hour training. about how to advise people.
Right.
4 hours of like some video training. The caregiver component is fascinating to me. They're basically can be drug dealers. It's bizarre. So kind of walk through the details of the bill and what we need to know about that.
I'll give you the real quick skinny on, I'm going to be fair, and some things I think that are good about the bill. Okay. You could tell that probably the BCA got involved in some way because there are good protections for business owners and workplace comp. Okay.
That was just CYA. It wasn't because they cared, I promise you.
Right. So at least, a business owner is not held at all to be required to allow an employee to stay employed because they're on medical marijuana. Okay. So, that there are some protections. You're not going to get your workman's comp if you tested positive and you can't say, well, I have medical marijuana. You don't have that excuse. So,
okay.
I'm glad that it at least was passed through the legislature and not through a popular vote. Usually, traditionally, popular vote marijuana programs end up becoming the worst. Say, and right now, Florida is about to explode with bad problems. Oklahoma is in terrible shape. Of course, California, Colorado, they have them in their constitution. So it's just terrible. So we at least have some of those kind of protections, and the marijuana industry does complain that we are the most restrictive. So we'll see over time. Here's the problem. There's a few problems. You can be as young as 19 and go find yourself a cannabis doctor. And all you have to do is just have a complaint as simple as depression, because that's one of our biggest problems is age and the conditions list. The conditions list is so broad that it is designed for
the 19-year-old can't buy a beer, but he can go out. I'm thinking of my son who's 19.
Right.
And he could walk in without me.
Right. Without you.
And get his own card. Yet he can't legally purchase a 6-pack at the gas station.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So how did they miss that one? That
seems pretty basic. Like, what's the problem there, legislature? At least make it 21.
Right.
Yeah. I had another bill written to try and raise the age at least to 25. And if there was anybody that medically needed marijuana under the age of 25, we were just going to have some more safeguards, like you need to actually have a specialist check off on this. You have to have pediatricians involved in this. There have to be really strict safeguards for anyone under the age of 25, because the frontal lobe does not stop developing until about that age. And when we see the worst impacts of marijuana on people, it's with young people. And if we're going to do something that's medically responsible, we should do everything in our power to keep it out of the hands of kids, even very young adults, because of the impact of psychosis, suicide, schizophrenia, aggressive violent behavior, all those different things, cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. But they've not done that. So 19 years old, yes, my son turns 19 in September. He'll be a freshman in college. And, the colleges here in Alabama have no idea what's about to hit them, because your child could have a roommate that says, yeah, I've got anxiety disorder and I've got my medical marijuana, and it's right there. You can have up to 70 doses at one time in the same dorm room as your child, or bring it into your home if they live at home with you. So that's
better start checking those drawers.
That's what can happen. If someone is younger than 19 and someone believes they should have marijuana for their condition, then they have to be under the care of a caregiver. Or if there's someone that's incapacitated, that's older and that's under the care of someone, the caregiver only has to be 21 years old. They don't have to have any medical training.
So my 19-year-old can have a 21-year-old caregiver.
Yes. And
I guess no, he can get it on his own. But like a 17-year-old just needs it. Okay.
And a caregiver, usually a caregiver can be just about any. Yes, they most likely a parent, legal guardian, grandparent, someone with power of attorney, and they can be paid. And the last time I checked, the conservatorship situation in our state was not the best. So just imagine if you have some unscrupulous lawyers, and I'm sure we have none of those in Alabama.
No, of course not.
That can be paid to distribute marijuana to their people under their care. I don't know if it's going to get to them or not. There's no safeguards set up to make sure that there's, in my world, we have drug counts every day. You have to go give a sample if your drug counts don't line up.
Right.
Everything has to be checked every single time. And I have to go through so much training before I give any kind of psychoactive substance to a patient. Yet here in this system, in the caregiver system, you don't even have to know how to do CPR. And
so
you can
how many people
this.
can this caregiver
it's left up to
facilitate their drug deals? How many people can this caregiver be a mule to?
Right now, that is something the law says the commission can decide.
Oh,
excellent.
Oh,
love it. Which is another great point of that bill. Let's talk about all the people that are getting rich off of this.
Yeah.
It's not us.
The bureaucracy.
Well, it is a very new and already expensive bureaucracy. The director is getting paid over $200,000 a year. The members of the commission, they don't receive a salary, and they do get paid $500 a day for every time they're acting within the grounds of doing service for the Cannabis Commission. And then they get expenses paid. They are not allowed to be involved in the marijuana industry, I guess, at least in Alabama. The troubling thing is right now the physician that is the chair of the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission currently practices as a marijuana doctor in Florida 3 days a week.
I mean, I don't look.
There's
What
a
do you
button
even?
for that.
What do you say about that?
Welcome to Alabama.
Hi. I mean, right?
Montgomery's happy to have you.
Right.
And these were Republicans that brought it in. So yes, you have the commission. The commission gets to decide after 1 year. So they get to decide how many patients a caregiver can have. They get to decide after 1 year of the new dispensaries open, they get to decide how many more dispensaries get to be open. So right now there's conflicting data, there's conflicting language in the law. So the first rollout of dispensaries, we may have 12 or 15 in the state, but after 1 year, the commission can decide based on profitability margins, the needs of farmers to have more business opportunities, demand, all those medically based factors. Then they get to decide how many more dispensaries get to be opened up in the state.
Do they decide who gets those?
The commission decides who gets the licenses to open up dispensaries. They work with the Ag Commission to decide who gets to be growers.
Okay.
There's one aspiring pot grower. He's never been a farmer one day in his life, but after his daddy sold his trucking company for $3 billion, he wants to be a pot farmer out of Dothan now. And he gave Kay Ivey a nice $100,000 donation a few months ago.
Oh. So who chooses the commission? Who?
The governor, the lieutenant governor, the Senate pro tem,
all the usual suspects.
the state health officer,
Oh my word.
the AG, and the head of ALEA.
Oh.
I'd have to look
I
that
only
up
want
again.
the state health officer to have to wear a mask when he makes the announcement. That's all I care about.
And if he smokes pot,
well,
he has to cut
you
a
do
hole
want
in his
someone
mask.
medical.
Do it.
But
Good.
so there's a mixture. There's a requirement to have a pediatrician, an oncologist, a couple of doctors, a couple of people in ag, some people in finance, law, a mixture of it.
So, Christine, let me ask this, because it feels like a lot of this is window dressing, in that, we have a commission, and there'll be doctors on the board, and there'll be, but it all is, everybody is appointed and everybody is put in position to make this happen, to facilitate the business. And so, I mean, why are we even pretending? We kind of
do it well. That's
we
why.
ought to just kind of say, look, you know what? This is the wild, wild west. Everybody grows it. Everybody buys it. What does it matter? All we're making you do is stop by somewhere to get your card. Then you're okay. I mean, it just seems so concocted to make it sound like legislators were really, really trying to make it safe. But from what it sounds like from you is it's really going to be kind of the wild, wild west. And we're one of the most restrictive states. So do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It just seems so hypocritical or so fake or phony that we're pretending that there's all this oversight and stuff when it's really about how much money can be made.
And I think the response that might come from, in the commission is that they want to do it right. But the problem is that when I go to them or other concerned people go to them and then they don't want to really consider the suggestions of how to do it. If you want to do it right, then we need to do these certain steps. We need to pass these certain laws.
Right.
And they want to just leave it up to the commission making rules. Kay Ivey wouldn't listen to any of our international experts. She wouldn't meet in person or in Zoom with any of our international experts. She wouldn't meet with the DAs that wrote the letter publicly asking that this not pass. And these DAs were excoriated in the media, like by people from AL.com and others, terribly mistreated.
Right.
And then after it was passed, we did our big filibuster, and after it was passed, and we had a big press conference asking the governor to veto it, because even though this law might be better than other states' laws, it still has a lot of holes. That was ignored. We had doctors, we had conservatives, we had Christians, we had grieving parents that have buried their children. We were allowed, myself and 2 other physicians, we were allowed to each create a 1-pager of amendment suggestions to give to the governor. And this is basic low-hanging fruit kind of stuff, protecting the kids, making sure that the unborn aren't exposed. Can we please not let people be driving on the roads with this much THC in their system? So we don't even have those protections yet.
Yes. I think you need to spend
and she
some time
ignored
on that.
every single one. She ignored every suggestion.
So, Christine, let me ask you this, because we're talking a lot about the bureaucracy. We're talking a lot about what the legislators have pretended to try to do, which is just a smokescreen. But let's talk about the plant itself.
Sure.
Is it not true? And the information, I love the video you did with the police captain. It was so helpful.
Good.
Yeah, it was really, really good. But as far as the THC, is it not true that it was at about 4% in 1983, that it's jumped in about 2018? Now the level of THC is between 17 and 28%. Is that true, that it is dramatically increased in the amount of that psychoactive ingredient?
Yes, the potency is so much higher. And when you take a plant that it's been bred or genetically changed to have a potency, a THC potency of more than 25%, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're getting, because then the processing concentrates it even further. So especially when you get younger people and they might take an edible, a medical marijuana edible, and they can concentrate it down. It's called dabbing. And then they can get a THC concentrate that's 90%.
Oh my.
And that happens all the time.
So that's why THC, like the dab pens, are actually a felony versus if you have like the leaf, it's a misdemeanor because it's a controlled substance.
So what was it in the 60s?
It was like
back
4%.
in our day.
Oh, so that was the 60s, not the 80s?
Well,
the 90s.
It was a little bit lower than
It's
that.
not the same weed that
Right.
we went to.
But not
high
the
school
same
with.
weed.
I didn't even have a weed.
Oh.
Wee weed. I didn't have a wee weed.
So here's the question.
Think about being a swimmer
I was
at Penn.
reading an article from the physician who's the head of the Connecticut Medical Association, or was a few years ago. And he talked about the increase. I'm just, you know what?
All right, keep going.
The fact that it increases, that our governor wouldn't listen to DAs, that governor wouldn't listen to the people who have experienced burying their children because of how terrible this is. But I'm looking at the statistics and the numbers of the increase of depression, suicide, psychosis, that in the state of Washington, Wesley worked out in Oregon. We visited Washington this summer. It smelled like pot, like didn't matter where you drove. It was horrible. But that 23% of the youths who committed suicide had marijuana in their systems, which was up from 14%. So I don't understand why our leadership doesn't want to hear that kind of information.
You're right. In Colorado, marijuana is the number one substance for completed teen suicide. It surpassed alcohol years ago. And here we are, we have these millions of dollars that the governor is going to put towards mental health programs, yet at the same time bringing in an entity that's going to make it worse. It just makes no sense. So a lot of times I found they just don't want to believe that that could possibly be true. And that's what's troubling is, I guess in my field, so many things are black and white. If a patient's heart rate's doing this, if their respiratory rate's doing this, we act. I don't play around and say, well, I hope that's not true.
Right.
Someone will die if I live like that. Unfortunately, there is this kind of collective thought process that, no, certainly they couldn't be right. All those other states, no, that can't be good data. And it is. And that is also the risk that we have. I think I would have a lot more respect for Senator Melson, for this law, and for this process if they were willing to say, yes, this is a dangerous drug. Kids, do not use it. Parents, this is extremely dangerous. We must be cautious. We are going to keep this as limited and as strict as possible, and it should only be handled in this certain way. I think I'd have more respect for that. But they're not doing that. They don't want to talk about the dangers, and that is medically dangerous for people. You lack an informed consent. People will get hurt from this if we aren't honest about all the truth of the plant.
So all the children will know that tobacco's bad for them, but they won't know that marijuana's bad for them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's kind of the public opinion, wherever all the studies show, wherever you have a decrease in perception of harm, you have increase of use.
Right.
Step by step.
Absolutely.
And that's
But I
what
want to find out why
happened.
Kay Ivey just ignored all the common sense suggestions.
$100,000.
Well, here's the thing, and you brought it up, and I think it's so true. You've talked about it with just different people that we know. Christine, you are very familiar with this, but when the bill originally came up a couple years ago, Chris informed me then that we already, like you mentioned, we already are able to prescribe it. 4 different types of medical marijuana. Go to the pharmacy, you get it. So if this is truly just meant to be medicinal, why can't you continue to go to the pharmacy and get it from the pharmacy? Why is the need for all of this? But the thing that he notices the most in his patients that are very addicted is that they grow furious when he tells them that they might need to consider that the withdrawals that they're experiencing or the stomach issues that they're having could be related to their marijuana use.
And they get crazy.
But they get crazy. He said, drugs, alcohol, even prescription drugs, people are willing to listen. They're willing to consider. But he said his patients that use marijuana recreationally are livid when he suggests that might be a cause. Do you see this happening with people who are a part of the industry or are very in love with using marijuana just in general, that they can't imagine not using it? Because I have a problem when you get furious about anything, especially being told that you are contributing to your own demise, but you won't listen.
Right.
I mean, here's that whole theme again of not listening.
Right.
I've seen that. There's a Facebook group called the Cannabis Hyperemesis Syndrome Support Group. I love reading their stories, and especially the stories of the people that have broken free from addiction. And they talk about how much better their life is. I had no idea my life could be this much better. But it's really interesting that even then they get very, very uptight about, they want to make sure it's legal. They want to make sure everybody can have it. And then some open their eyes and realize, no, it shouldn't be. This is a lot more dangerous. There is a consensus, however, that they just want to be told the truth. They do. They wish that people told them about CHS before they got it. And it's so
CHS is
expensive.
what?
Cannabis Hyperemesis Syndrome.
Okay.
It's called scromating. And what happens is that, when you're taking THC daily, even if it's, say, Delta 8 or Delta Naught from the hemp products that's very poorly regulated right now, you overwhelm your natural God-given endocannabinoid system. it's a beautiful thing that God created for us. There are natural ways to tone that system up and to make yourself healthier by treating it well. But THC on a regular basis destroys those receptors. It weakens that system. And that's when people end up having the increased anxiety, psychosis, schizophrenia. But they can also go develop this terrible GI disorder. And we call it scromiting because it's screaming and vomiting nonstop.
For real.
And the average.
Okay, I actually thought that was a terrible word to start with, but now that I know what it means,
No,
'cause I had
it's
no idea.
vomiting.
I thought y'all knew, and I didn't
Very
know.
real. Yeah.
And that's the other the concern with ER physicians across the country. They say you have no idea what's about to come your way, and the ERs will continue to be inundated with these types of patients. Amy's husband is GI specialist. He sees it. We've been seeing it a lot more and more in Alabama, and usually statistically it takes about 5 hospitalizations for a marijuana addict to finally give up the weed to get better. Each hospitalization averages $70,000. And so the cost to hospitals is outrageous. There was a study done not too long ago, looking at one hospital system in one city in Colorado before marijuana was legalized fully. So it was like 2009 to 2014. And that one hospital in a 5-year period lost $20 million just due to marijuana complications alone. When extrapolated across the state, it was well over $100 million.
Did the Alabama Hospital Association weigh in at all?
They don't care.
Of course not.
I spoke with Dane Howard. I reached out to the Hospital Association, tried to give them that data, tried to talk to them about the upcoming crisis. And thanks for the information. We think we'll be fine, is pretty much what they said.
And then every day they go in the legislator's office. Our hospitals are broke. We have no money.
Save
Please
us.
give us more. Give us more. Give us more. We need medical.
Oh, and they just recently, the Hospital Association, Kay Ivey gave them, a lobbyist group, all that ARPA money so they could decide which hospitals and clinics. It's this constant delegation to a bureaucracy, to a lobbyist, to unelected people. And that's kind of beyond marijuana, the thing that has disturbed me so much. I'm just a simple mom who was on a mission, going down to Montgomery. And I found myself in the belly of the beast, and I'm just now coming up for air to warn people in this state. Because my bubble was burst a year ago when I thought, at least in Alabama, we're safe. We're not going to be as crazy as the rest of the country. And now I'm very upset because I thought I lived in a place that was going to be safe and wholesome to raise my children. And it isn't true. And if we don't do something about these primaries coming up to clean up the Republican Party, because it was the Republicans that brought all of this in.
That's right.
We will not. It'll take about a generation to clean up the poor governance, the cronyism that is taking place in Montgomery today.
I just as an aside, I was there when Republicans took over the majority in the legislature. And I think back to when we were in the minority. And the Republican legislature over the last few years has passed almost all of the things that we would have just died on the sword, fallen on the sword for to kill in the old days. And it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
And I think, why did we even bother telling the people of the state, vote for us, put us in charge? I mean, our campaign ad should have said, vote for us, put us in charge. We'll pass everything the Democrats say they want to pass, but we'll do it worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it really
we'll
is
do it
sad.
with a smile saying we're conservative Christians.
Yeah, we're
vote for us.
Family values.
Allison, I am so sick and tired of hearing I'm a Christian conservative. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
All I want is courage.
Well, that's in short supply.
Courage.
So you were saying you were a normal
with
person.
backbones.
You went down there and then you were in the belly of the beast. So it was worse than you could ever imagine, isn't it? Just the corruption, the cronyism, the things that people are up to, the people being compromised. I try to tell folks that, and they don't believe it.
They do not believe it.
I was there yesterday and I walked through the halls and it just kind of gives you the
You get the
There
yips
is a
when you walk by.
darkness.
There
There's
is-
a
and-
creepy
and
darkness.
There's like
And it's
a
not just that the
spiritual,
lights are out.
It's
half the time.
oppression. It feels oppressed when you're in there.
It's heavy, and I didn't like it at all. I left and I was like, oh, Christine, I can't imagine, because I kind of watch from afar. I rarely go, and you've spent a lot of time there. So I can't imagine some of the stories you have. And probably, I mean, with Republicans like these, who needs Democrats, right? With conservatives
Right.
like this, who needs progressives?
Right.
So what, I mean, you're going to call on everybody to get into the voting booth on May 24th. Any experiences you want to share that just,
Yeah, like what's something that you're like, oh my gosh, there's just no way this can actually be happening. I can't be hearing this. I can't be seeing this. I can't. This is just too incredible.
It's some of it's a mixture of, a lot of these legislators are really nice people who intended to do well. And when I would sit down and talk with them about some of the things regarding this law, they had the same reactions that a lot of you just did. Can this really be possible? I think what was very upsetting was that there is so much dedicated belief that what Senator Melson was saying is true. Mm-hmm. And so this inability to recognize truth from falsehood was very troubling. I have to, give Will Ainsworth credit for the fact that he would meet with me and meet with some other conservative leaders.
He doesn't get a vote, though.
But the problem was is that he supported the passage of the bill last year and tweeted out support. Okay. So, I said, hey, I was really disappointed that you did that. But how can we work together? And I gave him my top 10 list of the main problems that are wrong with this bill. He loved it. He liked it. Mm-hmm. He said he would support me. He said he would help. He said, let's get some of these things passed. Okay. I just need you to sit down with Senator Melson and see if you can come to an understanding. Okay. We will play that game. We had to sit down with Senator Melson. He looked over our top 10 list. He was very flippant. He put the list down and he said, I will not lift a finger to do any of this. And there are other people in the room, a very conservative, wonderful senator and a wonderful conservative activist were also there. And I just said, well, why not? I know we don't agree on everything, but we can't let pregnant women get this. We've got to adjust this age issue. There's some dangers here.
Right.
Well, the governor doesn't want to.
Really?
He runs our legislature.
Governor,
it's disgusting.
Which is
just
a bad
what do you mean
point
the
for the
governor
legislature.
doesn't want to do this?
I mean,
she really.
I just want to slump down in my chair, kind of like a cartoon character. Yeah, just like that. Like I want to slump down because you literally, what else? Like you have physical reactions to just how corrupt and pathetic the people down there are behaving right now. I can't.
But I served with Kay when she was the lieutenant governor.
Can't believe we're
and
calling
I
her
can't
Kay.
imagine anybody said, but the governor doesn't want it. But the Kay doesn't want it. I mean,
she runs that place.
But where's the muscle? The muscle has got to be in the special interest somewhere or something.
If any senator or representative is listening, this is your Ron DeSantis moment. You've said that before. Like, step up,
please.
lead. Please be our hero.
I mean, because really, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, there's opportunity everywhere. Like, I'm walking through the halls and I'm like, you should be a leader. You should be a conservative leader. We got 4 in the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
I mean,
we have a few. Well,
I want to hear how it ended with Melson and Ainsworth. What ended up happening?
Well, I said, what do you mean the governor, why wouldn't she want to do this? I mean, this is just some like basic pro-life stuff. And he says, well, she just wants to let it all flesh itself out. And I said, you mean she wants to flesh out pregnant women using marijuana? And he shrugged his shoulders, he deflected, and then he moved on to another subject. And repeatedly, I and other people have been trying to reach the governor's office to say, why is this the case? Why won't you allow any? And she just, maybe it's because it's an election year, I don't know. I would have thought it would have helped her if she says, hey, I'm going to stand for the unborn and make sure that they don't get exposed to marijuana. But there's this big pressure to just let everything be handled through the bureaucracy, through the commission. And so ever since then, our ability to just pass one bill, the unborn protection bill, was blocked at every turn. Melson made threats to people and said he would, stop anything that was going to change marijuana legislation. Larry Stutz, a practicing OBGYN, a true conservative, filed this bill in the Senate. Jim McClendon held it in hostage in the Health Committee for 3 weeks. Larry Stutz had to pull the bill, refile it to get under a new committee. And when we finally had our committee hearing last week, all of a sudden there was one person short of having a quorum.
They took a walk.
We finally had a true conservative stand up to actually file a companion bill in the House, but Mac McCutcheon won't even allow it to go into committee.
Just a bill to say you can't be doing medical marijuana if you're
that
pregnant.
You have to take a pregnancy test before they issue your card, which is standard as a female. Go ahead.
Yeah, and not only just as the card, it's just before purchase, because you can get a card, but you don't have to renew until a year later.
And maybe it is hard
like
to enforce, but at least you're getting the message out there. Hey, you don't need to be taking this. So I've had similar experiences through the years, and it just makes you want to just go, what are we doing here? How frustrating is it? So did the lieutenant governor crack down on anybody? Was he mad at anybody?
No,
I can't. And some of these personalities that you're telling me, I'm like, when did they start carrying big sticks?
That's when I felt so disappointed, because nothing effective was done, even just for this one bill. And we asked, we did what you asked us to do. We met with Melson. He's not going to help. Will you stand up? And I think that's the disappointing part, is when I say I'm tired of people saying they're a Christian conservative, and I just want courage. I want someone to have a backbone and stand up and say, I don't care what Kay Ivey wants. This is the right thing, and I'm going to do it. I don't care if someone's going to donate to my campaign. This is the right thing. We're going to stand up for this. And I just didn't see that. Disappointed, and even underscoring more and more how we have to have major change happening in Montgomery, May 24th.
But it's so difficult because everyone's going to run, as you said. I'm a Christian conservative. I'm fighting for you. I'm a warrior, fighter, warrior, Christian, fighter. and so we're all stuck because everyone's saying that. And one of the people running probably is, and it will be the person who raises the least amount of money that everybody probably labels as crazy. And that's probably the person we should elect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't care.
So is this the circle of truth? Us and
yes, and nobody.
Yeah,
it's just
circle
us.
of
Just
truth.
don't tell anybody.
Well, I'm
It's
just
quiet.
going to be, and Christine and I have talked about this. I mean, my mom, 2 years ago, she had brain cancer. She passed away. And at the end of her life, I'm an only child. We don't have any other family. Well, my family, I'm from Knoxville, but here, and she lived here. And so it was just me caring for her. So I was there through all of the stages of her dying and diagnosis. And in that moment, I would have done anything. Luckily, she was not in any pain.
Right.
But I would have done anything in her end stages of life to make her. And I'm like, I don't know, I'll call the high school drug dealer if I have to. Like, I really don't care, whatever it takes. So, but to me, what we're talking about, that's very different. We're talking about getting medical marijuana as somebody that in stages of life versus medical marijuana for the 19-year-old who has anxiety over a test. So he says he has anxiety and he goes in and gets his medical. I mean, this is such an irresponsible bill on so many levels. Like, I am for medical marijuana. To me, this is recreational marijuana under the
with a card.
guise.
Yes,
And, there was a
absolutely.
bill in the House, I think it was a House bill to legalize recreational small amounts of marijuana. Like, this is the beginning of the snowball. So, Christine, we're running out of time, but I do want you to talk about how do we keep these pot shops, because they're coming to a store,
Yes, they are.
a corner near you very soon. And the one other good thing that the legislature did was change it to an opt-in scheme as opposed to an opt-out. So
For the cities?
for the cities.
What about the counties?
and the counties too, correct?
In the counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how do we lobby with our I don't want a pot shop next to my high school where my kids go. You know, like how do we lobby our county commissions and our city councils to keep these off of every corner in the coming years?
You need to develop relationships with your mayor, your city council, and your county commissioners, and you need to communicate with them that you do not want to opt in. We do have that very nice provision that in order to get a pot shop in your community, your mayor and your city council or your county commissioners have to actually vote to have it in. So the only place that's done that so far that I know of is Montgomery City. Which is just perfect. But you have to be alert as a private citizen in your local community. You have to be alert to what's going on and make sure that the people you vote for are not going to let that be snuck in, and that they do not fall for the myths of, oh, look at all this money that we're going to get, because the societal costs end up becoming much more expensive. But you're not automatically opted out from having grows, having processors, someone that wants to set up a delivery service. You're not automatically opted out from the van that's going to be decorated like an ice cream truck sitting at your park.
You just said delivery service. What? Like you can Uber Eats your gummies?
Not right now, but that provision will come. Yeah, that will come. And so there's all these other, and you're not automatically opted out from what your own school board will do. So is your school board going to say, no, none of our teachers and coaches and everybody can be on this stuff? These are all the little things that you have to think about. We are working with some legal experts to try and come up with some amazing ordinances that cities and counties in Alabama could just, plug and play and apply. Because what we found is when we're talking to individual cities and counties, all you need is some kind of untrustworthy council president or your city attorney to muck up all the things that you want to do.
And there's not any of those in the state.
I mean, can you imagine being a senior in high school before you graduate? By the time our youngest graduate from high school, they could just call for a delivery before their senior exams.
Well, I was thinking, I haven't even thought about teachers. What if all your teachers are high every day? It's going to be like the most unmotivated, get nothing. They're already behind because of COVID.
Stars.
This is such a disaster.
So these are a lot of
Pandora's box.
details. Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of details. So stay in touch with your local representatives and make sure they don't opt in, but you need to start the process also of saying we need to pass ordinances to protect us from all the other issues that aren't covered.
Do you have a website? I know you have documents and you've done a great job sending documents out, kind of how to talk to your city council and your mayor and different documents on Not in Our Town, the program you put together. So is there a webpage for that? And then also you referenced a lot of studies and things, statistics. Do you have, I like receipts. I like to go back and look at the data.
Yeah.
Do you have a website that people could go to look up that?
Yeah, let me tell you some websites. I don't have a website of my own. Sorry, I'm just too busy to even fool with that.
That would be so easy. Let's talk. I could help you with that.
I know. If we want to do that, would be great. But Eagle Forum and ALCAP have a lot of those resources on their websites.
Okay.
So they have a page talking about medical marijuana, and a lot of those resources of Not in Our Town is right there. An excellent site that is medically based. It's not funded by the marijuana industry or anything. It's called IASIC1.org, IASIC, the number 1.org. It's run by an international academy of world-renowned experts who really know what they're talking about. And they also offer grand rounds. So get into their speaker series. Their speaker series is phenomenal. They offer CEUs for physicians. And so far, I can't seem to get the Cannabis Commission here to pay attention. Maybe you can help me with that. It's excellent. Excellent medical background. Doctors would love to see this. So spread the word to doctors and nurses about that service. Documents, you can go to Eagle Forum and ALCAP, and then IASIC1.org is a great beginner clearinghouse for expert medical information.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine.
You're
Christine,
welcome.
you've done a great job. I really want to get you on again sometime in the future to just tell us about the experience of going to the swamp, and realizing what kind of monsters are there. I really would like to hear that sometime in the future if you would like to do that. But I appreciate
Sure.
all of your input and all of your hard work. It is so difficult to convince people who, a lot of people don't pay attention. They don't know. And it's like you said, and I've said the same kind of thing. If something was wrong with one of my children, I would go anywhere, do whatever. But reality is I could get help already
Right.
with that.
Right.
But people don't know it. And then we're back to the original question, which is, oh, this is wonderful. It's a happy unicorn of everything. It'll just fix everything. And people really believe it. And now we're behind the 8 ball because the legislature made some very, very, very poor decisions.
That's right.
Well, in my own personal life, I'm a mom that knows what it's like to be a special needs mom. And I have a child that does have epilepsy. And I know what it's like to bury a child. And when it comes to compassion, believe me, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I will do anything for my child. I completely get it. And my heart goes out to that very small group of parents who need something possibly like this for their child, but not this way. I want to help find a better way, a safer way, a much more medically valid way, not a let's make the marijuana industry another powerful entity in the state of Alabama and create an essential narco state. Right. I don't think that's what Alabamians want. We don't want that here.
It will change the landscape of Alabama forever.
Absolutely will.
Yeah.
I
Christine,
agree.
thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Appreciate it. Any last words?
We just.
I'm going to go home and cry.
It's a little depressing.
It is. Got our marching
I'm just
orders.
a barrel of sunshine.
That was fun, Christine.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
fantastic job.
That was fun.
Hey, well,
Have
thank
a great
y'all.
day.
Thank you. Thanks for being on. Thank y'all for watching Alabama Unfiltered this week. Like I said earlier in the program, go ahead and give us 5 stars, a thumbs up. Tell all your friends about it. We appreciate you spending time with us, and we'll see you next week.